The night air was cold and damp as Mark and his friends drove toward the abandoned tunnel on the outskirts of the small Pennsylvania town. The Screaming Tunnel had been a local legend for decades. Teenagers whispered about it in hushed tones, warning of the blood-curdling screams that haunted anyone who dared enter. Mark, always the skeptic, laughed it off. "It's just a story to scare kids," he said, but even he felt a shiver crawl down his spine as the headlights cut through the foggy night. The tunnel loomed ahead, black and gaping, its stone walls slick with years of neglect. The stories said that decades ago, a young girl had been trapped inside, her cries echoing until she perished. Now, it was said, her spirit remained, screaming for anyone who entered. Mark's friends dared each other with trembling voices. "First one in is the bravest," someone joked, but the nervous laughter did nothing to mask the tension. Mark stepped out first, flashlight in hand, pointing toward the dark mouth of the tunnel. The beam of light shook, revealing peeling paint, jagged stones, and graffiti from those who had come before, and some who had never come out. "All right," Mark muttered, "let's just go in, see it, and get out. Easy." But as he spoke, a cold wind seemed to escape from the tunnel, whispering unintelligible words that made the hairs on his arms stand on end. His friends exchanged worried glances, but the dare was too strong to resist. The first few steps inside were eerily quiet. The flashlight's beam flickered against the damp walls. The air smelled of mildew and decay. Mark's footsteps echoed, oddly long and drawn out, as if the tunnel itself was stretching to swallow their sound. A soft thud behind them made everyone freeze. They turned, and saw nothing. Just the darkness, swallowing the beam of light. "Probably just a rock," Mark said, trying to convince himself more than anyone else. But the sense of being watched grew, oppressive and heavy. Then they heard it, a faint whimper, like the cry of a child. It echoed off the walls, low at first, then growing louder, more desperate. The group froze, the stories they had laughed at now a horrifying reality. Suddenly, the light flickered violently, revealing a figure at the far end of the tunnel. A girl, pale, hair matted, eyes hollow and black. She screamed, a scream so piercing it vibrated through their bones, making their ears ring and their hearts hammer in terror. The sound was inhuman, stretching and bending in ways that defied logic. Mark's flashlight dropped with a clatter, plunging them into darkness. Panic erupted. They scrambled to grab the flashlight, but the beam revealed only empty walls. The scream came again, closer now, circling them, though no one moved. The air grew icy, their breath visible in the black void. One by one, they felt cold fingers brush their arms, yet when they turned, there was nothing there. It was as if the tunnel itself had come alive, feeding on fear. "Run!" someone shouted, but every exit seemed farther away, stretching endlessly like the tunnel had no end. The scream had changed. Now it wasn't just the girl. Hundreds of voices joined in, layered over each other, whispering names, warning them, demanding attention. Each step they took seemed to echo in slow motion, the walls closing in, the darkness thickening like ink. Mark stumbled over a loose stone and fell, scraping his hands on the rough wall. When he looked up, the girl was right in front of him, inches from his face, silent now. Her eyes, hollow, empty pits, stared into his soul. Then her mouth opened, and the scream resumed, more powerful than before. He tried to crawl back, but he was rooted to the spot, paralyzed by terror. His friends screamed his name, but the sound was swallowed. Instantly. They were trapped, each facing apparitions of the girl and shadows of other lost souls, their faces twisted in agony. It was as if the tunnel remembered every death that had occurred within it, and now it wanted more. Suddenly, the ground beneath them seemed to pulse, vibrating as if the tunnel had a heartbeat. From the darkness, shapes emerged, shadowy figures, humanoid but wrong, moving in jerky, unnatural ways. They reached for the group with impossibly long arms, fingers stretching toward their faces. Mark's mind screamed for an explanation, but none came. The only truth was fear. In a desperate bid, Mark grabbed his friend's hands. "We run together," he shouted. They bolted, sprinting blindly through the tunnel. The air was thick, almost liquid, slowing their movements. The screaming never ceased, now joined by the sound of scratching, like nails on stone, following their every step. Mark could hear his own heartbeat, pounding in his ears louder than the screaming. Then, without warning, the tunnel opened into a wide, empty chamber. The screams stopped. The silence was deafening. The flashlight flickered back on, revealing walls covered in faint, shadowy handprints, reaching out as if trying to escape. The girl was gone, but the feeling of being watched remained. The friends huddled together, trembling, unsure if they had escaped or just entered another layer of the nightmare. Mark's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Leave, or join us forever." The group didn't argue. They didn't look back. They ran out of the tunnel and into the night, the fog swallowing their footsteps. When they reached the car, they found the engine wouldn't start. In the distance, a scream echoed again, this time closer, following them. The legend was real, and it would never let go. Weeks later, the tunnel was quiet again. Locals whispered that it was just a seasonal wind or kids playing tricks. But Mark and his friends knew the truth. And some nights, when the fog rolls in thick and the wind dies down, the faint sound of a scream can still be heard, echoing through the darkness, reminding everyone that the screaming tunnel never forgets, and never forgives.